Let's get straight to the point. Number 8. The Christmas spider. If you saw a massive spider on your Christmas tree, your reaction would likely be to grab a flamethrower or just sign the deed over to the arachnid. But in Ukraine, finding a tree spider is actually good luck. It stems from the legend of the Christmas spider, a story about a poor widow who couldn't afford decorations. While her family slept, spiders spun webs all over the tree, which miraculously turned into gold and silver. It sounds heartwarming until you realize her living room was technically infested. This is actually the historical origin of tinsel. Those shiny strands of plastic that your cat eats are meant to represent spiderwebs. It is a brilliant rebranding campaign. We spend 11 months terrified of cobwebs, only to turn around in December and voluntarily drape our homes in symbolic bug secretions. Humans are strange. We love nature's aesthetic, provided it is made of cheap PVC and doesn't scuttle. So when you find tinsel in your carpet in July, remember you are honoring magical bugs that made a widow rich. Or you just really need to vacuum.
Number 7. When Christmas was illegal. Imagine getting thrown in jail just because you baked a mince pie. That sounds like a dystopian nightmare where happiness is banned, but it was actually just Boston in the 1600s. We tend to think of the past as being super traditional, but the Puritans absolutely hated Christmas. In 1659, the Massachusetts Bay Colony officially made it a criminal offense to celebrate the holiday. If you were caught hanging a stocking or singing a carol, you were fined 5 shillings. That was a lot of money back then, probably enough to buy a goat or a really nice hat buckle. The issue wasn't just that they were the fun police, it was that Christmas used to be a rowdy, drunken street festival, closer to Mardi Gras than a silent night. The Puritans looked at all the feasting and decided it was too pagan. They called it Fool's Tide, which is honestly a sick burn. Even in England, Oliver Cromwell banned it completely. Shops had to stay open, and if you smiled, you were suspect. It stayed illegal in Boston for 22 years. It wasn't until the mid-19th century that Christmas became the wholesome event we know, largely because Victorian writers rebranded it. So, if you hate family gatherings, remember, your ancestors fought for your right to be annoyed by them.
Number 6. Jingle Bells is a lie. You know that song you hear in every shopping mall starting in October? The one about dashing through the snow? It turns out Jingle Bells wasn't even written for Christmas. It was originally titled One Horse Open Sleigh and was composed by James Lord Pierpont in 1857 for a Thanksgiving church service. Yeah, Thanksgiving. The lyrics don't mention Santa, Jesus, presents, or reindeer. It is literally just a song about drag racing sleighs and picking up girls. If you read the other verses that nobody sings, it's mostly about crashing the sled into a snowbank and getting laughed at by your friends. But the weirdness doesn't stop there. This Thanksgiving-turned-Christmas anthem holds a galactic record. On December 16, 1965, the astronauts aboard Gemini 6 decided to prank Mission Control. They reported seeing a UFO with a pilot wearing a red suit. Before NASA could panic, the astronauts whipped out a smuggled harmonica and some bells and played Jingle Bells. That makes it the first song ever broadcast from space. So the most iconic Christmas carol is actually a Thanksgiving song about reckless driving that was played by pranksters orbiting the Earth. It really puts your neighbor's inflatable lawn decorations into perspective.
Number 5. The Parasite of Romance. You might be hoping to get a kiss under the mistletoe this year, but if you knew what you were actually standing under, you might prefer a hazmat suit. We treat mistletoe like this magical plant of love, but biologically, it is a vampire. It is a hemiparasite that attaches itself to trees and sucks out their water and nutrients. It basically kills its host slowly while looking pretty. That sounds uncomfortably like some of my past relationships, actually. But the etymology is even grosser. The word mistletoe comes from 2 Anglo-Saxon words, mistle meaning dung and tan meaning twig. It literally translates to dung on a twig. This is because the plant spreads through bird droppings. Birds eat the white berries, fly to another tree, and deposit the seeds. So when you pucker up for a romantic moment, you are technically standing beneath a poop-twid parasite. The kissing tradition actually comes from Norse mythology. The god Balder was killed by an arrow made of mistletoe because it was the only thing his mom forgot to make a pact with. When he was revived, she declared the plant a symbol of love, so it wouldn't be used as a weapon again. We took a literal murder weapon that grows from bird turds and made it the center of our holiday romance. Humans are absolutely weird.
Number 4, the Corporate Reindeer. You probably assume Rudolph is ancient folklore, right up there with the elves, but he is actually younger than the chocolate chip cookie. The most famous reindeer of all time wasn't born in the North Pole. He was born in a boardroom in Chicago. In 1939, the department store Montgomery Ward wanted to save cash. They usually bought coloring books to give away to kids, but decided it would be cheaper to make their own. They assigned a copywriter named Robert L. May to write it, and he came up with the red-nosed outcast. But the bosses hated it. See, in the 1930s, a bright red nose wasn't a sign of magic, it was the universal symbol for chronic alcoholism. They were genuinely worried parents would think Santa was driving around with a drunk deer. They almost named him Reginald or Rollo, which just doesn't work. Reginald the red-nosed reindeer sounds like a British accountant with a sunburn. Eventually, they approved it and gave away millions of copies. The song didn't even exist until a decade later. So the most beloved holiday character is essentially a promotional flyer that got way too famous. It is like if in 50 years the biggest symbol of Easter is the Geico gecko. We're singing a department store ad.
Number 3, the physics of obliteration. We all accept that Santa visits every child in one night, but if you apply actual physics to this, Christmas Eve turns into a horror movie. Let's do the math. There are roughly 2 billion children in the world. Even if Santa ignores the kids on the naughty list, and let's be honest, that is just efficiency, he still has to make about 800 million stops. To hit every house in 31 hours, he would need to travel at about 650 miles per second. That is 3,000 times the speed of sound. At that velocity, air resistance isn't just a breeze, it is a wall of fire. The lead reindeer would absorb roughly 14.3 quintillion joules of energy per second. He would instantly vaporize into a burst of plasma. The sleigh would disintegrate, creating a sonic boom, shattering every window on Earth. And Santa? The G-forces would be 17,500 times greater than gravity. He wouldn't be a jolly man, he'd be compressed into pink jelly clinging to the back seat. It is less ho-ho-ho and more thermonuclear explosion. So the fact that presents arrive intact is the single greatest defiance of science in history. Magic isn't just whimsical, it is structurally necessary to keep Santa solid.
Number 2, Santa is scattered everywhere. Most kids think Santa is safe at the North Pole managing elf labor disputes, but the actual St. Nicholas is broken into pieces and scattered across Europe like a holy jigsaw puzzle. The real St. Nick was a Greek bishop in Turkey, famous for giving away cash and punching heretics. But after he died, things got weird. In the 11th century, sailors from Bari, Italy, decided their town needed a tourism boost. They sailed to Turkey, smashed his tomb, and stole his skeleton. It wasn't archaeology, it was a heist. They took the big bones and left the small ones. Later, Venetian sailors showed up, saw the leftovers, and stole the remaining fragments. So if you want to visit Santa, you have to go to Italy and guess which church has his femur. Scientists have analyzed the bones and confirmed they belong to the same guy. It gets worse. Bone shards were sold worldwide. There is a non-zero chance that a piece of Santa is in a reliquary near you. We turned the symbol of generosity into a collectible. It is morbid to think that while we wait for him to come down the chimney, he's technically resting in pieces in a crypt in Italy.
Number 1. The date is a total lie. If you think Christmas is on December 25th because that is when Jesus was born, I have bad news for your nativity scene. The Bible never actually mentions a specific date. It describes shepherds watching flocks at night. In Judea, December is freezing and rainy. No shepherd is chilling in a field in winter, unless they really enjoy hypothermia. So why the 25th? Because the early church wanted to hijack a party that was already happening. The Romans celebrated Saturnalia around this time, and it was the wildest festival in history. It honored Saturn, and things got intense. During Saturnalia, social norms were flipped. Masters served their slaves dinner. Gambling was legal, and people exchanged gifts. It was basically a week-long version of the Purge, but with more wine and less murder. Church leaders realized they couldn't stop the partying, so they slapped a Jesus sticker on it. That is why we have feasting. It is a pagan leftover. We didn't invent a holiday, we gentrified a Roman frat party. So when your uncle gets too drunk at dinner, don't get mad. He is honoring the true spirit of the season, ancient Roman chaos. It explains why the holidays feel stressful. We are trying to force a silent night onto a festival designed for total debauchery.
Anyway, that is enough ruining your childhood for one day. If you learned something or just enjoyed watching me dismantle the holidays, go ahead and hit the like button. Share this with a friend who is weirdly obsessed with Christmas just to mess with them. And don't forget to subscribe to Coolest Dude Explains. I post new videos every single day, so there is always something else to talk about. See ya!